quiet street, steeped in history. A 10-year-old girl walks home, sunlight filtering through ancient oaks, innocence personified. But innocence is no shield when prejudice wears a badge. An officer sees not a child, but a target, someone out of place in his ordered world. In moments, a peaceful afternoon shatters, handcuffs clicking onto wrists too small, fear replacing humming tunes. He thinks he's asserting control. He has no idea he just ignited a firestorm, nor does he know the identity of the powerful figure he's about to confront. Because justice, in Charleston, sometimes arrives with unexpected fury. Before this shocking encounter escalates, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss the moment the tables turn. Charleston breathed its history in the late afternoon sun, warm air carrying the scent of salt from the harbor. On Magnolia Lane, under a canopy of oaks draped with Spanish moss, 10-year-old Chloe Davis traced the familiar path home from her piano lesson. Her pink backpack bounced, braids swung, a soft hum escaping her lips. She passed Mr. Peterson's bakery, waving at his familiar face in the window, inhaling the scent of fresh bread. Across the street, Mrs. Gable tended her roses, offering a kind smile. It was a picture of serene familiarity, soon to be torn apart. The disruption began as a faint siren, distant, then rapidly growing louder, slicing through the calm. Chloe paused, listening, a knot of unease forming. The patrol car appeared suddenly, moving too fast, lights flashing, siren wailing. Chloe stepped aside, expecting it to pass. It screeched to a halt beside her. The siren died abruptly. Officer Mark Reilly emerged. Crisp uniform, polished boots, but his eyes held a familiar hardness. Chloe knew him by sight. His reputation preceded him. Quick-tempered, harsh, especially in this neighborhood. He towered over her. "Hey!" His voice snapped like a whip. "What are you doing here, girl?" Chloe blinked, startled. I'm just walking home," she stammered. Reilly stepped closer, eyes narrowing, dismissing her words. "You live around here?" The tone was accusatory. "Yes, sir," Chloe whispered, clutching her backpack straps tighter. He moved even closer, overwhelming her small frame. "Don't lie to me, girl. This neighborhood's had some trouble lately." Trouble? Chloe knew nothing of trouble on Magnolia Lane, but her confusion only fueled his suspicion. Then, shockingly fast, he grabbed her wrist. His grip was rough, painful. Cold metal clicked shut. Handcuffs. On her 10-year-old wrists. Chloe gasped, tears welling. "Please, I didn't do anything." Reilly wasn't listening. "You're under arrest," he muttered. Arrest? For what? The world tilted. Neighbors froze on their porches. Phones emerged, recording discreetly. Mrs. Gable gasped. Mr. Peterson stared, aghast. But no one stepped forward. Reilly shoved Chloe toward the squad car. The cold metal, the biting cuffs, the weight of eyes. It was terrifying. As the door slammed shut, sealing her inside, a different kind of sound pierced the silence. The urgent dialing of a phone. On her porch, Mrs. Evelyn Hayes, a respected elder with observant eyes, held her phone, her fingers trembling but determined. "Sharon?" she whispered urgently when the call connected. "It's Evelyn Hayes. You need to get down here. Magnolia Lane. It's Chloe Davis. Officer Reilly just took her." That call, quiet but potent, set the wheels of justice in motion, wheels Officer Reilly never saw coming. The back of the squad car felt small and cold. Chloe pressed herself against the vinyl seat, the handcuffs digging painfully into her wrists. Outside, her familiar street blurred past, suddenly hostile territory. Officer Reilly drove in tense silence, knuckles white on the steering wheel, ignoring the insistent buzzing of his phone clipped to the dash. He told himself it was a good stop. Procedure followed. But the image of the small, cuffed wrists, the fear in the child's eyes, pricked at the edges of his certainty. He shoved the doubt down. Back on Magnolia Lane, the silence had broken. Neighbors gathered, voices rising in disbelief and anger. Phones buzzed, spreading the news. Reilly arrested Chloe Davis, Judge Vance's granddaughter. The connection, once made, traveled like wildfire. Retired firefighter Mr. Henderson made calls. Others texted community leaders. The outrage wasn't just about a wrongful arrest. It was about who had been arrested, a symbol of the community's hopes, granddaughter of a man who represented justice itself. Inside the car, Chloe squeezed her eyes shut, trying to be brave, trying to hold on to her mother's reassuring voice in her memory. But fear was a heavy weight. As they pulled into the precinct parking lot, Reilly killed the engine, the silence amplifying the frantic beat of Chloe's heart. He yanked open the back door. "Out!" he barked. Chloe stumbled out, legs shaky. He grabbed her arm, pulling her towards the cold brick building. Inside, the station buzzed with a low, anxious energy. Heads turned. Conversations paused. Officers knew Reilly, knew his methods. But arresting Judge Vance's granddaughter? Even they looked uneasy. Reilly shoved Chloe towards the intake area, ignoring the stairs. He pushed her onto a hard metal bench. "Sit. Don't move." He finally checked his phone, the screen illuminating a flood of missed calls and urgent texts. "Where's the kid? What happened with Chloe Davis? Jenkins is looking for you. Call now." The weight of his actions began to press down. Suddenly, the door to the intake room swung open. Detective Sarah Jenkins stood there, her expression thunderous. She had worked these streets for years, seen the best and worst of the department. She locked eyes with Reilly. "Let her go, Mark. Now." Reilly stiffened. "Detective Jenkins, I was handling a suspect." "She's 10 years old," Jenkins snapped, stepping into the room, her voice cutting through his excuses. "Handling? You call cuffing a child walking home from piano lessons handling?" "She fit the description," Reilly blustered, desperation creeping in. "Suspicious activity." "Suspicious?" Jenkins' disbelief was palpable. "She was carrying sheet music. What description did she fit, Reilly, except the one you carry around based on prejudice?" Before Reilly could formulate another lie, the door opened again, wider this time. Judge Arthur Vance filled the doorway. Tall, commanding, his presence radiated an authority that instantly silenced the room. His gaze swept the scene. The small girl on the bench, the defiant officer, the furious detective. His expression hardened into granite. "What is going on here?" His voice was deep, steady, laced with controlled fury. Chloe looked up, disbelief warring with hope. "Grandpa!" she cried, sliding off the bench and running into his arms. Judge Vance knelt, enveloping her in a protective embrace. "I'm here now, baby girl," he murmured, his voice softening only for her. "You're safe." He held her close, then slowly stood, turning the full force of his judicial wrath upon Reilly. "Remove yourself from this room, officer," he ordered, his tone leaving no room for argument. Reilly, trapped, looked desperately at Jenkins, who offered no support. He clenched his jaw, gave a stiff nod, and fled the room. Judge Vance turned back to Jenkins. "I trust there will be a thorough investigation, Detective." "There already is, Judge," Jenkins confirmed. "Body cam footage. Witnesses, we're gathering everything." Judge Vance nodded grimly. "I want accountability." As he gently led Chloe towards the exit, the junior officer reappeared, pale-faced. "Sir," he stammered, addressing the judge, "the media is outside." "They know." Judge Vance paused, took a deep breath, and stepped out into the flashing lights, his arm protectively around his granddaughter. The image was stark, powerful, and broadcast across the city within minutes. The reckoning for Officer Reilly, and perhaps the department itself, had truly begun. The morning after Chloe Davis's wrongful arrest, Charleston awoke to a city transformed. The story wasn't just local news. It dominated state and national headlines. Federal judge's granddaughter, 10, handcuffed by local police. The image of Judge Vance shielding Chloe on the precinct steps became instantly iconic. The outrage was palpable, a simmering anger directed not just at Officer Mark Reilly, but at the system that allowed such an abuse to occur. Within the Charleston Police Department, the atmosphere was thick with recrimination and fear. Detective Sarah Jenkins, armed with Judge Vance's implicit backing and fueled by her own indignation, launched an aggressive internal investigation. She pulled Reilly's personnel file, a document thick with prior complaints, excessive force allegations, racial profiling accusations, instances of aggressive behavior towards minors, nearly all dismissed or quietly resolved with minimal consequence. A pattern emerged, shielded for years by indifference or complicity within the command structure, particularly pointing towards Captain Roberts, known for backing his officers regardless of evidence. Jenkins interviewed neighbors like Mrs. Hayes, Mr. Peterson, and Mr. Henderson, securing sworn statements confirming Chloe was simply walking home, doing nothing suspicious. The bystander video, clear and damning, corroborated their accounts and contradicted Reilly's initial flimsy justifications. The community response was swift and organized. Local pastors, civil rights groups, and concerned parents convened emergency meetings. They didn't just demand Reilly's termination. They demanded systemic reforms, civilian oversight, mandatory bias training, transparent disciplinary procedures. Protests began, initially small vigils outside the precinct, but growing daily, fueled by shared stories of past injustices suddenly finding a receptive audience. Judge Vance, while maintaining judicial propriety, worked quietly behind the scenes, ensuring state and federal agencies were aware, applying pressure where it mattered most. His reputation, combined with the undeniable evidence, made it impossible for the city or the department to employ their usual tactics of delay and deflection. Officer Reilly, placed on administrative leave, found himself isolated. The blue wall offered no protection this time. The union provided only procedural assistance. Colleagues avoided him. He was facing not just departmental charges, but potential criminal charges and a firestorm of public condemnation. He hired a lawyer, issuing statements claiming misunderstanding, denying racial bias, but his defense rang hollow against the visual evidence and the testimony of respected community members. The pressure culminated in a packed town hall meeting days later. The community center overflowed, people standing in the aisles, spilling out into the hallway. The mayor, the police chief, city council members, they all sat facing a community no longer willing to accept platitudes. Speaker after speaker shared experiences, demanded action. Then, unexpectedly, Chloe Davis, holding her grandfather's hand, walked quietly to the podium. The room fell utterly silent. Adjusting the microphone, her small voice, amplified, filled the space, clear and steady. "I was walking home," she began simply. "I didn't do anything wrong, but the officer, he yelled at me. He grabbed me. He put handcuffs on me. It hurt, and I was scared." She looked out at the sea of faces. "I don't want any other kid to feel like that. It's not right." She paused, taking a deep breath. "We should all feel safe walking in our neighborhood. Nobody should be treated like that just because of how they look." Her words, simple, honest, devastating, resonated more powerfully than any legal argument or political speech. The room erupted in a standing ovation, tears streaming down faces, a shared acknowledgement of the truth spoken by a child. That night marked a turning point. Chloe's quiet testimony solidified public opinion and strengthened the resolve of city leaders. The following week, the police chief announced Officer Reilly's termination, citing gross misconduct and violations of departmental policy. He also announced the immediate implementation of enhanced training and the fast-tracking of the Civilian Review Board. Criminal charges against Reilly were filed by the district attorney. The fight wasn't over. Lawsuits would follow, reforms would need careful implementation, but a significant victory had been won. Chloe slowly returned to her routine, piano lessons, walking home down Magnolia Lane. The street felt different, safer. Neighbors waved with renewed warmth. But she carried the experience within her, not just as trauma, but as a source of quiet strength. She had faced down fear, spoken truth to power, and inadvertently become the catalyst for change in her city. Justice, in Charleston, was beginning to look a little more like the promises made in its historic halls, thanks to the courage of a 10-year-old girl who refused to be invisible. In the face of injustice, sometimes the smallest voice carries the greatest power. Chloe Davis's story reminds us that courage isn't about age or status. It's about standing up for what's right, even when you're afraid. Her bravery, amplified by a community that refused to stay silent and figures like Detective Jenkins and Judge Vance who demanded accountability, sparked real change in Charleston. This narrative isn't just about one wrongful arrest, it's about the enduring strength found in community, the importance of speaking truth to power, and the possibility of healing and reform, even when systems seem broken. It teaches us that every voice matters, and that protecting innocence requires constant vigilance and collective action. If Chloe's story touched your heart and inspires you to believe in the power of community and courage, please show your support. Like this video, share it with someone who needs this message of hope, and subscribe for more unforgettable stories that champion resilience and the fight for justice. Thank you.